Listen to that, would you? Wood pigeons, blackbirds. Where's Barney running to? Ooh, a monkjack. This could be interesting. He's gone off in entirely the wrong direction. Go on, monkjack. You make your way. I don't know where Barney is. Barnes! Barney! Where are you? Come on. He lost you, definitely. You went the wrong way. You're not a tracker dog, are you? Anyway, look at this. Really, the sun is streaming through the branches. It's like the world is in slow motion. I've been thinking about the act of walking and making photographs a lot of late, probably because it was the subject of much conversation when I went to India. By the way, he says, in brackets, if everyone who says they want to come returns their booking forms this week and over the weekend, India is already half full for 2026. I'll tell you more about that later on. Yes, the act of walking and making pictures and slowing down, particularly on glorious mornings like this, QELO and Mr. Blue Sky. The sun is doing its early morning stretches. It's doing a quiet handshake with the day. There we go, ELO, you can have that one for free if you ever remake the song. The world hasn't quite found its volume yet. And in these moments, we're not rushing, are we? No, we're just noticing stuff. I realise, of course, if you're riding the Pinstriped Express as you're listening to this, that may not be your complete experience right now, but go with me. I was talking with somebody only yesterday as he walked in the opposite direction to me and Sir Barkalot. It was along the canal. He was intrigued by the fact I was making a picture of a small boat, which I'm sure we will find on this walk in a little while today. It's a small boat that's been gradually sinking at the side of the canal for, it's got to be 3 months or so now. It's one of those small two-berth plastic things, tiny cabin. Hardly any room for two people, just about enough. I don't think that this man who stopped quite understood why I should be taking a picture of a boat that was half submerged. He was intrigued, and I told him that I'd been watching and photographing this quiet, gradual process for 3 months or so, and I think he did sort of get and like the idea of slowing down. I'm not completely sure he got the boat sinking thing, but he did get the metaphor when it came to the pace of life. If I'd have had my fluffy windjammer thing to go on the end of my voice recorder, aka phone, I'd have recorded our chat because I was trying to explain why I make pictures and how photographing as I walk changes the whole walking experience for me. So we had quite a good conversation about that, really. Yes, it slows the pace. But more than that, I think that these walks that we take together and the photo walk each week, and particularly when I'm making my walks with a camera, I think it gives me permission to see. And in that act of really looking, you do begin to step out of your own head. Anxiety loses its volume, and I've had some anxious moments over the last few years. As you know, worries definitely they find a smaller shape. You're present, you're anchored by curiosity instead of weighed down by pressure. Only in the case of that boat I was mentioning, the anchor's been nicked, and the only reason it's not moving is the weight of the water in its hull. But I digress. I've definitely come to believe that taking pictures like this, as we walk and listen to the nature around us, it's not necessarily about, well, not always anyway, about making great pictures. It's about reconnecting, and on a truly beautiful sunny morning like this, when the light is very generous and the world feels new, it's a reminder that peace doesn't really live far away. Sometimes it's just around the corner. And that's the beauty of having an ever-changing canvas like photography. Anyways, the show today is called as you can see by the title, an ever-changing canvas. Yes, and there's a reason for that. It's a street photography week in many ways, and the street is a real ever-changing canvas. Street photography is never still, is it? It's a canvas that repaints itself practically every single time you blink. You can stand in the same spot every single morning, camera in hand, and no two frames will probably ever match. And that's the unpredictability that makes street photography so fantastic. And I think I have two excellent guests, plus a bonus guest in many ways, to help this week's theme of the street come to life. Mark Fearnley is a London-based street photographer known for his minimalist, fine art approach to urban storytelling, where lines and light and shadow play leading roles. He is a reactionary artiste, and he's sought after by many who want to learn how to make more fine art style street pictures. And we'll talk about that in our chat. So he'll share the story of how he found his visual voice photographically and why the City of London in particular is his ever-changing canvas. Also on the show, Valérie Jardin in Teach Me Street. She unpicks what makes a street image, shares how photographers can recognise when they may have captured something particularly special. Plus, as I suggested, a bonus guest. And that bonus comes in the form of one of my guests from last week's Encounters workshop, which I will tell you more about later on.
Today on the Photo Walk.
I shoot for the aesthetics, really, because I think for me, ever since I left school, I always painted and wanted my pictures to go on a wall. When I shoot for it to be really just like a piece of art. I love the silhouettes because they give the mystery. I love the hats because it gives like the 40s, 30s, the film noir look. And I've always sort of loved that style, you know. I've waited 2 hours, Neil, for a shot once, you know, 2 hours. I found the shot I wanted to take, the architecture and that, and I just waited, just keep on shooting, because you always hit blocks, you know. When I was doing the painting and everything, it's just like you get to a stage where you think, what am I going to do now? And everyone goes through that.
That's Mark Fearnley, my guest on the show today. Welcome along as we make our photo walks each week, photographically sketchbooking our time spent together, accompanied by the letters and the inspirational stories you send in, plus talking with very special guests from around the world. I'll peek into our mailbag in a moment for a flavour of today's thoughts you have, but before that, I want to personally thank those who are Patreon members of our community, or extra milers, as you're affectionately known, because your belief in this show, your desire to keep us walking together week after week, that really is the why and the how of this podcast. Also, thank you, arthelper.ai, who help you sell your photos online by making the posts, the mock-ups, the marketing emails for you. Try it for free for 30 days with the code PHOTOWALK, and I'll tell you more about that later on in the show. Right, on the show then, today from the mailbag. 2 Chris's, would you believe it? There's more than one. Celebrate the sights and the sounds of India. Charles Mason reminds us of the power of hands and how much hands say about us or others in a portrait. And Lynn Gregory has some really special thoughts about safety on the paths we travel, safety in particular for women photographers. I'll explain more later on. And it being now May, Neil, are you going to do your how did we get to May so fast thing like you did last year and the year before and the year before that? I think I probably am. It being May, how did we get here so quickly? We have a new one-word assignment, which is set this month by extra miler and long-time supporter of the show, Dennis Linden, and it is one that surprised me a lot. So, shall we walk? Checklist out. Coffee, check. Cash for a bacon butty at the Nature Discovery Centre. Strange one, Neil, but check it off the list. Walking boots, check. Some spare film or perhaps an extra SD card, check. Barney's walking treats, I can't tell you how much trouble there was when I forgot to pack them yesterday, check. All right, let's walk then. I meant to mention, and actually it will become more pertinent a little bit later on in the show, but I'm at the Reed Beds today, the Thatcham Nature Reserve, one of my favouriteest places in the world. I absolutely adore it here. This is the walk I'm on now. Actually, during the winter, we can't really make this walk because the paths fill up with water. Barney would look like up Periscope, just his head showing. But during the summer, it's beautiful. You can hear the chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff. That is a chiff-chaff, isn't it? Do I faintly sound like I might know what I'm talking about with wildlife? There's the birds, beautiful bird life. Woodpecker yesterday seemed to be following me along the path, making a hell of a clatter it was. But this is one of the most beautiful paths locally to where I live. The letters, the emails, the comments you leave gives our community a real uniqueness. Your thoughts about this thing that we do, walking, making pictures, provides a very welcome respite from the noise of this world. Some great responses. I think that's where we'll start with this week's show, to last week's show, our India special. I'm hoping you felt like you were actually with me in Delhi and Jodhpur. From Chris Articulate to start with, who just has the best name, doesn't he? Chris Articulate. Dear Neil, I've just devoured the India special, and what a delicious audio meal it was. Chris, with everything going on, that must have been a very rich meal. Do you need some Rennies? Hang on, Walker coming along. Good morning. How are you? Good. Yeah, very well, thank you. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? You've got to love this, the sunshine, haven't you?
Too true.
I see you. Sorry, if you think, what's he doing? I'm talking into a microphone because I'm recording my Photo Walk podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I see you so often along this path.
Yeah,
It is a wonderful place, isn't it? What's your name? Bernard. I see you so often, Bernard. Have you been walking these paths for a long time?
Quite a time now, yeah.
What's your favourite bit of it? I love this bit.
Yeah.
This is my favourite bit.
Yeah. And down the canal, further up with dead asher on the other side,
Yeah.
you always hear the cuckoo.
The cuckoo.
Yeah.
Have you heard the woodpecker?
Well, I've seen them about.
Yesterday he was particularly busy.
Yeah.
He seemed to be following me along. It is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, some days I walk up to Greenham Common and back round this way.
That's a long old way. Do you do the whole of Greenham as well?
I have done it, yeah.
On the same day?
Yeah.
No wonder you look so fit, Bernard. Oh, I'll let you enjoy your walk.
Yeah. Well,
Nice to see you.
thank you.
See you again.
Yeah.
Come, pups. How nice meeting Bernard. Now, the challenge I have now is to remember Bernard's name. Bernard. How can I remember Bernard? I need to get better at remembering names. Where were we? Oh, yes, we were reading Chris's email. Thank you, says Chris, to you and all your fellow travellers for such a feast. Listening to the trip while stuck in traffic on several morning commutes felt like being physically in one place but spiritually transported to another. With life and kids and work, I won't be joining you in India anytime soon, and I've always felt too scared to add this place to my list of destinations. Until now. On the future itinerary, it goes, with David Wood's words from the show, which were, this is what David said, one big regret, said David, that we left it so long before we experienced and visited this place and what it had to offer. Those words, he says, are now ringing in my ears. Warm regards from Chris. Well, Chris, I still hope that experience will be one that we share together one day. Who knows? And another Chris, this time a Parsons-flavoured version, Chris Parsons, who was remarking on the pictures that we shared on the show page. Lovely images and reflections from all the travellers to India. It's striking how the choices of subjects, styles of framing, colour profiles and everything resulted in a connected set of images, which are unique to all the photographers. The collected pictures powerfully demonstrate the unique subjectivities we all carry with us when observing our world and holding on to precious seconds of it, using our cameras. And, Chris, thank you. I love that sentence. The precious seconds we capture using our cameras when we observe the world. That contrast you picked up on between shared shared experience and unique expression really gets to the heart of photography, doesn't it? Even when we are standing shoulder to shoulder, what we choose to frame is shaped by who we are. I've made a few pictures along the path, but I didn't make them with you, so let's share the experience. We used to raise the camera at the same time during the shot, a certain time, didn't we? Might bring that back. Right, shutter speed. Let's go to 5.6, f5.6, shutter speed 2200 now, and ISO 160. Looking back along the beautiful, well-illuminated path. There ain't a cloud in sight. Cue that song again. Very blue, very Mr. Blue Sky. With pictures on the show page today, here's one before we meet our first guest. It's from Charles Mason. Hello, says Charles. One of those happy coincidences of discovery and technology occurred after hearing the assignment for hands a few months back. I solely intended to find and submit an image I made of my own aging hands. As I age, says Charles, I've developed roaming red spots that seem to come and go with very small influences from the world. I've intended to make this a daily or weekly series this year, and perhaps your reminder of shooting the local, or what's, pun intended here I'm sure, handy, if you will, and me as a potential subject, will push this series along. So I made this picture, which will be on the show page today, as a test shot, and I very much like the results. I had to shoot each hand individually, as I kind of needed the other one to control my quick tabletop studio setup. But here's where the technology came in, and when searching for this photo to submit for the challenge, by inputting the word hands and choosing image in my Mac's search bar, I came up with an assortment of hands photographs that I've made across the years. I include an additional couple. The first taken at a rodeo here in Fairbanks, Alaska, and another of the hands of an older man who's passed, holding those of his great-grandchild in our local pioneer home. This was one of the first photos I shot as a new staff photographer for the local newspaper when I first came to Alaska in 1984. I think these three work well together, and my focus on older hands when I was a younger photographer has morphed to using my own older hands as a self-image or self-portrait, really. The world does turn, doesn't it? Thank you, Charles. And this really is fabulous work. I'm very pleased to pop this on the show page today. Hands as a portrait, and self-portrait in your case. Hands as a portrait was actually one of the challenges from the Encounters workshop from London last week. More on that a little bit later on. But if you'd like to send in a story and some pictures, as Charles has, then send them to stories@photowalk.show. Stories@photowalk.show. And if you're sending pictures, if you can send them 2,500 pixels wide, you are an absolute star. Otherwise, don't worry. I'll do the heavy lifting for you. So, to our guest today, our first guest, Mark Fearnley. He's a photographer known for turning the everyday into something extraordinary. And I know that seems to be a cliche or something used quite often, but in his case, it's very much true. Whether it's bold architectural lines, fleeting shadows, or the quiet poetry of a street corner, Mark Fearnley's work captures the rhythm and the atmosphere of any city that he's in photographing. Here is my guest, Mark Fearnley, part one of 2 parts today. Mark, travelling to 26 countries with your wife, or head of IT, as I now know her, as she leapt in to join Vision to Zoom a moment ago. She was sort of responsible for kickstarting your passion in photography, wasn't she? I think partly responsible because of all that travelling you did with her.
Yeah. So we, to cut a long story short, we got a little bit of inheritance, and we just thought, sod it, let's go and travel the world for a year and a half. So basically, we just rented the house out. We booked our first 2 nights in Delhi. And everything from them was adventure. So 18 months, just traveling around probably 26, 28 countries. And then it was just an amazing experience,
What a place to start an adventure in Delhi.
It wasn't really, Neil, because I'd never been to India before. Me and my wife, we love, when we go traveling, we always like to stay amongst, the locals, the local area. So I just booked a hotel in an area called Paharganj. It's the gritty area where everything happens, It's hustle, bustle, loud, beep.
Earthy is a word that I usually...
that's a better word. Yeah. And I booked 2 nights there, and then on the third night, my wife said, I really want to go home. And I was like, really? And we plonked ourselves in a situation where it was just so chaotic. We really should have stayed, a little bit out of the centre for our first part of our travelling,
Mind you, I mean, that's the chaos is part of and parcel of some of these places you go to, but maybe you want to sort of ease your way into it. What was one of the fondest places you went to? I mean, out of 26 to 28 countries, that's a bit unfair to ask, but there might be somewhere where you think, oh.
Yeah, for me, I think it was Tokyo.
Oh,
I think Tokyo just was completely opposite to India. It was just modern neons. I started getting into my photography then, and it was just I'm from London anyway, so like I know what it's like to live in a busy city, but Tokyo was just another level. I remember even when we got there, we went down to Shibuya Station, and it was winter time, and there was everybody like rammed onto the station platform, and there was this row of guards. I've never seen like 15, 20 guards all the way down to the end of the platform, and they were classed as pushers. I think they were called pushers.
They're the pushers, yeah.
And then we all had coats on, and it was cold. And as the doors opened, everybody got off and then got on, and then they pushed the people on,
squeeze you in,
and then I couldn't believe that.
They could do with that on the London Underground, couldn't they? Really, 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning, Oxford Circus. You need a row of pushers, wouldn't you? That would work well. So you were a painter before, weren't you? That's your creative leaning before photography. A fair amount of photographers talk about art and painters and how painters have helped them or inspired them with their photographic work. I know you're a bit of a fan of Jackson Pollock, aren't you?
Yeah, I went through a stage of painting abstract, so I like Mark Rothko, Jackson Pollock, Kandinsky. There was quite a lot of abstract painters that I was really influenced by, really.
How does that figure in your photography, though?
Totally opposite. Oh. Yeah, because I got commissioned when I got into my painting. Well, I've been a painter ever since I left school. When I left school, I was doing murals like my friends' bedroom walls, and from then on to basically working for interior designers and doing like commissions of like one-off pieces of art in large pieces, 12 foot by 18 foot. I got a call from someone who worked in English Heritage, and then I ended up painting marble and gold leaf. And so all my life I've just been into different forms of painting, but a lot of my painting is very colourful, like when I did my abstracts, it was always like the use of lots of colours. And when you think like a lot of my photography now is black and white, it's like couldn't be no more opposite.
Mind you say minimalism. Rothko is a great example of that. And if you look at your photography, there's an element of that, isn't there? You break down the clutter, you declutter it, and I suppose you could say, if you squint long enough, that there's a bit of Rothko in that sort of thinking.
Yeah, you could, because I always look for that human element, that solitude. And I really got into like when I first got into photography, I think somebody lent me a book from a guy called Fan Ho, and he's black and white photographer from Hong Kong, 1950s photographer. But I really loved his style, like high contrast, black and white. And I know back then it was film photography. He must have had so many. Imagine how hard it was for him, getting those shots in one go and stuff. I really wanted to sort of not recreate it, but like just heavily influenced by like him and Ray Metzger and even modern photographers like Trent Park. I like that sort of high contrast, black and white, a lot of solitude, high scale geometry. I look for lines, repetition. Could be just the way a shadow hits on a wall, but I'm drawn to a scene that I am more. There's a street photographer like Mark Seymour, who had on the show, where he's more people based, so he's looking for the people. That's the last thing I look for as a person. I'm basically I look for scenes really.
When I look at your work and when I've read interviews and I've seen films with you featured, solitary is a word that comes up quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether, with your background in art, we are quite a solitary lot, aren't we? As photographers.
Yeah.
Do you work better? I mean, you can't be less solitary, you could say, when you're in a city and it's all going on around you. But I don't know. I think I feel most of my ease when I'm surrounded by lots of people who aren't talking to me, which is quite a solitary thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, my whole life since the age of 16, as a decorative artist, I was always worked on my own. Yeah. So when I worked for like English Heritage and National Trust, doing lots of commission work for them, it was like I could only work in those houses when they're out of season. You know, they're not gonna scaffold up to a gold leaf in a whole ceiling when there's people in there. So it was always out of season work, and I wouldn't see anybody. And I'd be in a stately home for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, not see anybody. And then I remember I used to get home, and then because I hadn't seen anybody or spoke to anybody all day, I'd be like, my wife would come in, and all I want to do is talk because I haven't spoken all day long. And yet my wife's an English teacher, and all she's done all day long is talk. So she wants to sit on the sofa and shut down, and I'm the one that's going blah 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 blah.
Your house, I can't see around your house. I can only see a very basic backdrop to you at the moment. But as somebody who's designed gold leaf on ceilings and stuff like that, you must have the most incredible house. Or are you a bit like the plumber who never mends his own pipes? I don't know.
The carpenter with the wonky shelf and the mechanic with an oil leak. Yeah. No, I mean it's we've got an old terraced house here. It's on 4 levels. We've got a cellar, which is where my studio is.
Nice.
But our kids have all moved out now.
So in this 26 to 28, we're not quite sure, countries that you visited, at what stage did you think, I fancy photographing this? There might be something in this.
Well, I only actually picked up a camera 9 years ago, so like I didn't ever own a DSLR or film camera or nothing. So 9 years ago, I transitioned from my painting to my photography. Yeah, so 9 years ago, I put down my paintbrushes. My wife bought me a camera, and then we went travelling. So when we went travelling, it was just a little DSLR 5100. I think it was like a Nikon, I think. But it was only like 8 megapixel. But I found myself, not when I was in India and say like we were going to the Taj Mahal, and there'd be thousands of people there, all taking that same picture, you know, straight down that aisle outside the Taj Mahal. I found myself like putting my camera right next to the fountains and shooting through the fountains, getting raindrops in front of it, or in the puddles, you know, and putting my camera down in the puddles, getting reflections and stuff like that. Always finding myself, and I've done it all my life really, trying to find something a little bit different from an overworked scene, you know, and trying to find, looking at it and thinking, how can I break this picture down and think of something a little bit more different, you know, whether it works or not. And that's what I teach that same practice to all my workshops. I take lots of people to over photograph scenes, and I say to them, right, now find me something different, you know. And it really does make people start thinking like, I'm not going to take the picture head high, I'm going to put my picture down on that metal grate on the floor and focus onto the metal grate and try and think a little bit more creative in the approach, really.
Well, I've watched you work, and the camera is rarely to your eye. It's above you, it's below you, it's shoved against a wall, it's, you know, it's anywhere but where you think a camera would be, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why all my jeans have got holes in the knee.
Oh, well, I remember. Actually, there's the late Tom Stoddart, who we eulogise about on this show. I remember him saying, you can tell a good photographer by the holes in their trousers. That's
true.
That's a good photographer. Fine art street photography. I know you've been asked before. I am going to be another person that asks you. What is fine art street photography? What defines that as opposed to simply street photography?
I never ever really classed myself as a street photographer. I'd class someone like Mark Seymour as a street photographer. But I remember seeing like a video with Bruce Gilden, and he in this video he was saying like, if you can smell the street, it's a street photo. And then when I watched the whole video and I started doing workshops, I needed a label to put on it. Like I wasn't going to put myself as a fine art photographer workshop, because I have to have all my work consists of getting that candid human element in my pictures, you know. But I shoot for the aesthetics, really, because I think for me, ever since I left school, I always painted and wanted my pictures to go on a wall. When I shoot for it to be really just, just like a piece of art rather than just, a street photo. So I'm always looking for shapes and patterns, and I'm looking for shape and form in my pictures for an artistic photo. So when I worded my workshop, so I classed myself as, there's not even a genre for it, I don't think, as a fine art street photographer.
Your work also has this very definite cinematic feel.
Yeah, so I've always been heavily influenced in, German expressionism, film noir, those 1940s films, with the detective movie with the trilby hat and the long trench coat, walking down a foggy street with cobble streets, dark,
lovely,
dim lit.
Yes.
I love all that.
Yeah.
And my photography reflects a lot back on that, especially when I do my double exposures. So the man with the hat, the long trench coat, they're the pictures I'm looking for my double exposures. But yeah, heavily. Even last week I was in Berlin doing a couple of workshops in Berlin, and my friend said to me, "Right, what are you doing tonight?" And I went, "I'm doing anything." He said, "Well, I'm picking you up at 7:30. So he took me to a 1920s cinema, and he said, "Right, you're going to love this 1920s cinema. We're going to watch a film. What are we watching? The Metropolis." I was like, "Wow, I love that film."
Yes.
He said, "You're going to see it on the big screen, but there's a live orchestra playing alongside it."
No way.
I was like, "Wow." And do you know what? We welled up. The sound of the cymbals and the crashing, but it wasn't like coming through the speakers. It was like 30 feet in front of us, but it was so powerful, Neil. It was like unbelievable. And then he said, "There's another one next month. Do you want to come along?" I said, "I'm coming again." So we're going to go and see again in this 1920 cinema. We're going to watch the original Nosferatu with a live orchestra.
This is going to become an expensive hobby, just popping across to Germany to go to the cinema for the night, isn't it? Wow, what an experience. I don't think I've ever heard cinema being presented in that fashion. I mean, I know in the very original days of cinema where you would have orchestration to it in that sort of way, but not a massive orchestra. I mean,
that's what my wife said to me afterwards. Yeah. She sat there, she stood up, applauding giving applause to the pit for musicians, and then she sat down and she went, "What I've experienced now," as she said, "it's like probably what this would have been like," because I think Metropolis is 1924 or 27, around that age, and then the cinema was 1920s, and we're listening to the orchestra, and it would have been just like how it would have been probably near on 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it wasn't an orchestra like the earlier films, there would have just been a guy on a piano,
Yeah. Yeah, that was like being in your own time capsule, wasn't it? It really was. The black and white. I mean, there is colour in your work. On your website, you'll find colour in your work. But you do this film noir. This inspiration you have probably guides your work. That most of it is black and white. That's what you prefer, isn't it?
Yeah. I've always been, even with my music, when I was early on in when I left school and stuff, the type of music I liked was very sort of like The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, that gothic, dark music, really. And I've always sort of followed that. I love the silhouettes because they give the mystery. I love the hats because it gives like the 40s, 30s, the film noir look. And I've always sort of loved that style,
Clash.
Yes, I love the Clash.
Yeah. London, talking of that, London calling. London is your playground, but you've shot in other places. We've already talked about Tokyo. If you could choose one city, though, and listen, now you've been to 26 or 28 countries. You've seen a few cities as you were honing your craft. Where would you choose to shoot?
Yeah, that is a tough one. A lot of countries in Europe where I wanted to shoot, I've shot. And then when we went travelling, I made sure on our route that we went, because I wanted to shoot Shanghai, I always wanted to shoot Hong Kong, because I was massively inspired by Fan Ho and stuff. But yeah, in Tokyo, Osaka, I'm trying to think.
Well, maybe it just comes back to London.
Yeah, London's a big part of my heart, We go around I do all these workshops around the world, but then people sometimes ask me, say, where's the best place you do workshops? Come on, Mark, you've got all these lovely places you go to. And I'm still a big sucker for London, I think London's got so much. Because it's got so many areas, like you ain't just got the South Bank. You've got I shoot around Canary Wharf where it's very sort of glass and high structured buildings and stuff like that. And then you have all the areas like the barbecuing, which is lovely in the sunshine. And I've done a book called Beneath the Streets, which is all the underground stations in a lot of the underground stations in the centre of London. But look how different Baker Street station looks to Canary Wharf. You've got Canary Wharf high-tech modern, you've got Baker Street where you could have that 1940s man with a trilby hat sitting underneath one of the arches of light, It's like...
Well, Canary Wharf is one of the places they filmed some of their Star Wars
is it?
Scenes. Yeah. I spoke to Mr. Whisper, the street photographer, recently, and he'd shot a lot on Canary Wharf for the Star Wars franchise. I did not know that. I thought, but I can see it now and I can understand it. But you are, in fact, you must be looking over my shoulder, because my very next question was about that project, Beneath the Streets and London Undergrounds. What inspired it? Is it just because it's just a great place, or was it for any particular reason?
I think what it is when I was trying to look for locations and spots around London. I just remember going to the Embankment with those lovely tiles, down on the Embankment station, and I thought, this is really good. From then, I got shown a picture from Gants Hill, and I loved that station, and I thought, wow, that looks amazing. And then when I started putting them all together, I couldn't believe how, because like when you go to New York, when you're on Manhattan Island, nearly every station looks like exactly the same next station, doesn't it? But London, I think, is quite unique, where it's got so many different stations of what you can, like Baker Street I love, but there's like loads and loads of them. I like Waterloo, and I like Westminster with all the big pipes, the industrial pipes all underneath. I remember shooting them all and thinking, I can do something good here. I was getting a good collection of images, and
And Mark Fearnley is back later on in the show. It's a packed one today, full of chats and features. We've got to keep moving to Barkalot. Much to do today. He's found himself, I wouldn't describe this as much as it's not really a stick. It's a piece of an old fencing post. And I know you do pick the funniest things to walk along with. It's really heavy. Come on, there's got to be another stick along here. Come on, pups. If you insist on, I'm not carrying it. This is what he does, you see. Woofs at me. You got it? He woofs at me until I pick it up and put it in a bag and take it. I'm not doing that. I haven't got a bag big enough for that. Here's one from a letter from Lynn Gregory, a letter which she's been meaning to write for a while now. Before I read this, Lynn, I'm sorry not to have been reading this back in March in tandem with International Women's Day. My trip to India meant that the show that went out then was planned, recorded and committed to the podcast sphere. But your thoughts are as valid now as they were that day and beyond. Hi, Neil, says Lynn. I've been lurking in the dark corners of the Photo Walk airwaves, listening most Fridays for the past 2 years, as well as catching up with the older editions back to lockdown. My word. With the full intention of writing in to introduce myself and my photography, as well as comment on some of the engaging interviews you've had with amazing photographers across that time. Lynn, I have to say, I did wonder who was lurking in the shadows over there. I saw the branches move, and I thought perhaps it was a squirrel for Barney to play with. But no, all along, it was you. Well, finally, says Lynn, the time has come to raise my hand and say hello. And be prepared to duck down behind that sofa of flattery now. Tell you what a breath of fresh air finding your podcast was for me, helping to reignite my passion for photography. Your gentle presentation style has helped to build a true community of kindness where anyone can share what can sometimes be sensitive issues openly and honestly. So thank you, Neil. No, thank you, Lynn. If it comes across that way, fantastic, because that's the way that I always wanted this show to be. With community in mind, says Lynn, I was drawn back to an important topic that's been lingering in my thoughts, but it's not often spoken about. Last year, I raised the issue of women's safety in nature in a large women's online photography group and was inundated with responses which shocked but didn't surprise me. I decided that as International Women's Day is this coming Saturday, 8th of March, I know we're a bit late now, rather than just let the thoughts linger in my mind, I'd actually publish a short piece on Substack to open up a conversation on the barriers that women have to face in order to pursue their photographic passions. Here's a link to my post, the Safety in Nature post I will link to on the show page today for you. And it's called Spirit of Place. It's a wonderful piece, it really is. I'm a strong believer, says Lynn, that raising awareness can facilitate changes in attitudes. And I'm pleased to say that my essay has garnered a real positive response from both men and women in the photographic and wider community, which is fantastic. It really is a very supportive group there, and I think it's a group that I'd like to engage with more, Lynn, I really do. Yes, it would be great if the word could be spread further afield to increase awareness. I thought I'd flag it up as it might be of interest to you and something you could help with, garnering more attention for this important topic on your show. Just as an aside, one of the initial draws to your show, says Lynn, was when you started to mention where you were walking, and this is why I had to remember to say it earlier, Lynn. I almost forgot. But where I'm walking is particular pertinence today. It sounded so very familiar, says Lynn. When you mentioned Greenham Common, the penny dropped. I lived in Thatcham for 18 years until I moved to the Sussex coast in 2005. Oh, I'm very envious, I really am. Your photo walks, although I do love this walk, I would love to live by the coast. Your photo walks along the canal, around Thatcham Lakes and Greenham Common, which, of course, Bernard mentioned earlier, didn't he? Greenham Common. That wasn't planned, Lynn, I promise you, it wasn't. They take me back to those days. I can remember Greenham Common when it was a US air base. Every Monday, I think it was, the 5-minute nuclear alarm warning would sound as a test, and it would ring out across Thatcham, very spooky indeed. I wasn't living here then, but I'm sure my mother-in-law would probably remember that. I must ask her. Your walks make me want to stop off to take a walk along that canal when I'm driving through on my annual pilgrimage to Avebury. Make sure you do, Lynn, in that case. We'll walk Barney together. I'll sign off for now. Keep up the brilliant work in the podcast. And if you'd like to spread the word about the issues of women's safety in nature through my essay, that would be wonderful. All the best to you. And Barney, I've got Lynn's website and Substack and that link to that piece, all of which will be at the very tippity top of the show notes today, the links, that is, in the show notes on the website photowalk.show. So yes, I'll happily do that. Firstly, I suppose by talking about the subject here, but I would like to invite you, Lynn, to come onto the show and have a chat about this topic. If you're at any stage passing by us on the way to Avebury, we could possibly meet, and chat in person. I think that would be great. But for now, yes, those links. And I'd like to highlight one part of one part from the article that you wrote, and it's this. It was about presence, and I think it's something I'm aware of particularly when recording the show, because I do think I must look a bit odd, slowly wandering along, talking into my iPhone with my fluffy windjammer, aka dead cat, on it. Lynn wrote, Martin Harper from the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds suggests simple yet effective steps that men can take that make a significant difference, such as maintaining a distance, avoiding intimidating behaviour, and being mindful of one's presence. Now, I commented on Lynn's article. Here's a reason to subscribe, not only to Lynn, but to go and see that article, because Lynn responded to my comment with something that happened along this path. And I think it makes for fascinating, if not slightly disturbing reading. But you're right, it's so important, isn't it? Respecting space, being aware of your presence. I always make sure I do a cheery hello, or morning, afternoon, evening, and if nothing comes back, I respect it. I know some people get really offended by it. I think there were times in my life where I did. I thought, what's the matter with you? But unless you're walking in somebody's shoes, you never know, do you? You really never know. So just a cheery hello, and then see what happens after that. If they say hello, fantastic. If they don't, just keep walking. But in the years of recording these episodes, it's something I think I've observed is, one thing I think I've observed is don't follow people. I really try not to follow people. Sometimes you can't avoid it, can you? And if I am in that situation, I'll try to overtake so that they can see me in front of them. Or maybe I'll hang right back and wait for a little bit longer. Although I do think my little furry friend, talking about you pups, I do think my furry friend Barney helps to bring some kind of normality. I know I'm talking about you, don't join in, to a bloke walking in. Can you wait just for a second? I have literally just a few more words. All right, look, I'll give you a treat. Then can you let me do just the last paragraph? It is a paragraph. I should not be rewarding you when you bark for these. Don't tell anybody, will you? Here we go. He's pretty good, actually, because although you might think, oh, Neil, he's got you in the palm of his paws. After this, he'll just walk on for another 15, 20 minutes. We're going for a bacon butty later, pups. Where were we? Yeah, I do think my little furry friend Barney helps to bring some kind of normality to a bloke walking in wilderness on his own. But it is sad that you have to think of it this way. All right, lend me your lug holes for a moment, would you? I need to tell you about how you could perhaps sell your wonderful art that you make, the pictures that you photograph along the various paths that you tread.
Before we return to this week's show, my thanks to those who keep us walking each week, such as our patrons, you know who you are, and now arthelper.ai for the next few months. If you've ever thought about selling your photography online but haven't a clue where to start, I think Art Helper could probably help you because it's made for people like us. Here's how it works. You upload a photo, magically and instantly professional content is made for you, such as social media posts, email newsletters, even full Substack articles, all in your own voice. It can also generate hundreds of mock-ups for every image you upload, things like your work framed so people get a real understanding of what your photograph could look like on their wall. It helps you connect with the right buyers and even suggests pricing based on your market. And unlike most AI tools, it has an art protection guarantee, which means something very important: your images are never used for AI training. Free to try, and Art Helper is giving our listeners a special deal. Go to arthelper.ai, use the code PHOTOWALK and get 30 days free of the pro version. I'll have a link on the show page. It's a great way to start selling your art or growing the business you already have. And thank you, arthelper.ai, for your belief in this show.
Tell you what would make a really interesting set of art pictures. I know it's been done before, but not by me. The contrails, when you look up in the sky on days like today and see all the crisscrossing contrails. I always think, I wonder where you're going. Where are you going? What fabulous places are you going to? What adventurers are within your aircraft? Where are they going? What are they seeing? Who are they meeting? I really do think all those things. I think it would make a good project. I do, he says, tried to convince himself. Now, Teach Me Street is a monthly feature about candid street photography with Valérie Jardin, where this year you get the chance to ask her questions about the hows and the whys of the craft. We're also looking for pictures that you've made for Valérie to constructively critique with her decades of knowledge. All questions sent in for this and all pictures used will receive an e-book of your choice from Valérie's vast library of releases. And this then is this month's Teach Me Street.
Valérie, Seville. Was it good? Was Seville civil to you?
Oh, it was so lovely.
Yeah.
People were wonderful. I got to practice my Spanish, which was a bonus.
Yeah.
And I had an amazing guide and a great little group. We had so much fun. No one wanted to leave. I mean, it's one of those cities that I think it's one of the best kept secrets. It just grabs you.
That's because it's tricky to get to, Valerie. That's
It is tricky. I had clients that had 3 flights and trains, and it's not easy to get to, but it's so worth it. It's a dream.
It is. It's
And photographically, oh my God, those narrow little streets and the light and the beautiful people. Oh.
Tell me about it. I went there. I think we mentioned this before, but when we were chatting. But I went there a good few years ago. Had a wonderful time there. It's just it's a friendly place. It's it's slightly easier for me to get to than you, by the sound of it.
Yes.
but I could understand how people didn't want to go. It's just a gorgeous place, isn't it? And that square. Did you go and grab yourself a table and just get paella for one?
We actually had epic thunderstorm on the last day when we went to the Plaza de España, and it made it so much more beautiful. I have some of my favorite photographs from that moment, because when do you ever see the plaza completely empty? No. Except for one beautiful subject walking through with a large umbrella and the pouring rain. And so it was just amazing. But yes, the rest of the time we had wonderful, wonderful food. That's the thing I love about Spain. You never get tired of the food.
No.
It's, every restaurant will have something different, and every region will have their own specialty, and it's so amazing. So I love it. I could live there.
I share. And you've also been to Normandy. I know you weren't doing this was a family visit this time, wasn't it? But
it was just a week to unwind before heading back to the US. And it was very much needed. Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine. When you were in Normandy, you can't tell me for one moment that you did not go photographing. I don't believe that.
I did very little, actually, surprisingly. Huh? I think after being in Seville and for a week, and the colors, it kind of took me a while to kind of, and it's going, then it's going to a familiar place. So it's always more difficult. So I didn't do a whole lot, and it was really a family time. And so sometimes you just have to actually leave the camera behind. And I did that during those few days. Actually did a lot of things. I did some painting, and just wanted to really relax and take it all in and see how beautiful it is to be there.
We've been talking a lot about travel on the show of late, and you are a traveler with a camera. There's no doubt about that. Where's the next place you're traveling to?
Actually, the next 2 workshops are the only 2 U.S. workshops this year. Seattle in May, and Minneapolis, which is my other home, in June. And both are full with waiting lists, very popular workshops. And then back to Paris for the July workshop. Lovely. So I think there is a spot left for that one. So, hey, Neil, you should come.
There we go. July, you say? July. I think I'm all right in July. I've been waiting for a time where we actually will meet up in Europe.
That's right.
Maybe this is the one. I'd love to. I went to Paris last year, as you know, so I'd love to return this year. Perfect. Right. We've got some pictures. We've got a picture and some questions. So, should we start with the picture? This is from Sue Byrne on Teach Me Street. It's a wonderful foggy picture. She has a question to go with it, which I'm going to ask in a minute, actually. First of all, and I'll put the picture, of course, on the show page so you can see what Valerie's talking about. But just to describe it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lads running out of the fog, as it were, going for their what looks like a morning misty run. I think Sue mentioned, she said, I wasn't quite sure. It's not normally my thing, this picture, but something drew me to this moment. What do you make of it?
Oh, I love fog, and I think you all know that by now. It's one of my favorite times to photograph. I love it when I wake up in the morning and I see the fog on the beach in Normandy, and I have to run, and I photograph the horses running through it or whoever. I love it. I love the mood. And here there are a lot of really strong elements. The more subjects you include in your photograph, the harder it is, right? And here she has 5 subjects running towards her, but there's such good separation between them.
Oh, they're perfect.
I mean, they overlap slightly, but the heads are completely separated. There is even like the way like the 2 taller lads on each side, and then the shorter one in the middle, and it's just the composition is so good, and the way they're separated really works well. And then the leading lines of the railing on one side, and then those giant palm trees on the other. So converging lines, repeated pattern. There is a lot of really strong elements in this photograph. The good subjects, the mood. I think this was definitely a keeper.
I love it, and plays into your passion as well of black and white. It looks quite timeless, actually. I suppose the lads do look quite modern in what they're wearing, but apart from that, it's quite a timeless shot, I think. Anyway, Sue had a question to go with it. How do you know if you have something or not? What makes an image? Henri Cartier-Bresson, who we eulogise about, she said had the definitive moment, but how do you learn that? Or can you learn it?
I think it's the emotional response. First and foremost, you captured either a special expression, a special gesture, a special light, and you just know you have a keeper. That said, there are ranges of keepers. There are the ones that are like, it's good. I'm not going to put it on my wall. And then there is the one that stands out in after weeks and weeks and weeks of hitting the streets every day, one that really stands out, that really makes you proud. And that's a very personal thing. I mean, yes, of course, it has to be visually strong, and there has to be something that most people will respond to. But I'm surprised that my favorite photographs are always the one that receive less likes than a lot of others. So it's a very personal connection, and it's really the emotional metadata that's connected to the shot. And also, as a photographer, you know the merit that went in getting that shot. The viewer doesn't, or doesn't understand it. And so I could show silhouettes all day long, which are fairly easy to achieve a strong silhouette, and I would get the most likes. Whereas I will show a photograph that really resonates with me a lot more, that had more merit to capture, and fewer people will understand or connect with it. So when it comes down to it, what really matters is you and your connection with the photograph. And if other people respond to it accordingly, great. But not everybody will, and that's okay too.
Right. Now, next question. Now, this is from a friend of mine, Phil Payne, who says, right, I'm using a small Canon GFX Mark II and Fujifilm XE3. I don't know the XE3. I know it exists, but it's not a camera I've used. I doubt you have either. You really are an X100 person, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And I may have had one for a while to test, but I can't remember now.
Well, it has an 18mm lens, and Phil says, I have a bit of a mobility issue and I'm using a walking stick. I find I have to be much more patient and stay in one place to achieve my vision. There's an image attached just to get an idea. But in essence, Phil can't move around quite like he did before. And so taking that, I suppose that patient angle of just finding a place, staying there, and then finding a photograph as somebody walks into shot is what he's doing now. Any tips on that?
And that's all right. Actually, I have a story for him too. On one of my workshops once in Paris, on day one of the participants sprained her ankle.
Oh.
On day one. And I thought, and I'm always ahead of the group when we walk as a group going from point A to point B. I always point out, okay, step here, watch this, watch that, because that's my fear, that somebody hurts themselves. And she was such a good sport. She spent the rest of her time, instead of being angry and feeling bad, she actually spent the rest of her time sitting at cafes outside, finding a good spot and capturing daily life happening of people walking by. But she was really selective as to, okay, what would make a good backdrop, playing with things like creative focus, creative framing. So finding different cafes throughout the day. And I thought that was pretty amazing because I would have been, like a lion in a cage, not being able to move around. So you can really turn things to your advantage, and it will require some discernment and following the light or whatever it is. But you can certainly be more of a fisherman than a hunter. That's not my preferred method. I like to move because that's really my personality. So I can imagine if his personality is more moving, it's going to be more challenging to have the patience to spend time in one spot. But that's also when he'll get the best shots with patience and discernment and finding a great shaft of light or whatever, and just get comfortable, find a place to sit or lean against a post and spend a few minutes or up to an hour or whatever, or find a cafe and depending on where you live, find a cafe. In France, they will never ask you to leave. You can have your spot for the day. No one will ever say, are you done yet, or are you leaving? Like in the States, after 5 minutes, anything else? You need anything else? No. In France, they will only bring you your bill when you're ready, when you ask them. So you could be there for hours with just one cup of coffee. So
you can sit there and just nurse one cup of coffee for the entire day.
Exactly, yeah.
That rings a bell, actually. It's a good year, maybe nearly 2 years since you were talking to me about, I think it was an exercise you did where you all sat down in a cafe and did you photograph through the cups or by the cups or over the cups?
Yeah, we do some creative focus, creative framing, photographing the cup of coffee and waiting for someone really interesting to walk by out of focus. And so creating some visual poetry. And recently I was actually playing just shooting through my empty water glass, and I had this beautiful effect of abstract reality, and it was just lovely. But then again, not everyone will make a good subject. You still have to get the right subject and then practice. There is so much you can do creatively without using special gear or software, and that's where the satisfaction really comes, and the merit. Creating something really beautiful without special gear or without going into post-processing. That's what being a photographer is.
I like the idea of patience, and it has been a sub-theme in some respects of the program of late. Just taking time in places, not feeling like you have to rush. And this is a great example of that. So he sent a picture in, colour photograph. My feeling was there's a lot of backs here. I don't know what you would say, but I think this was used to sort of show the situation he's in.
Well, this is busy for me. I'm more of a minimalist photographer. I need to know what the subject is the minute I look at a photograph. And here, I'm not sure. The light is hitting a young woman's hair who's walking away, but then the only face we see are kind of in the shadow. And so I think it's a little busy. It's really asking yourself, what is the subject? What am I looking at? And here I'm a bit confused. So a little too much. Try to be a little bit more deliberate. What is the subject? What are you trying to say? And so there's beautiful light, but when you have this dappled light, it's really difficult. And it's hitting spots that draw the attention that are not the subject, such as the yellow sign. Grabbed my attention right away, but that's not the subject. Or that pink flag on the side. So I don't think we're close enough to the subject, or that there is one subject. And if there was one, it would have to be immediately noticed by the viewer. So that's what I would have to say. But there was definitely some potential because it's a beautiful spot. The light makes it difficult, and it's even more difficult in color.
Good luck, Phil. It's going to be interesting to see how, knowing you and knowing that you've had to change your style and the way you work, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the coming months. Now, One Love. How's that going? I wanted to ask you before we end this one. I did notice there was a new piece of work up it was with, is it Dana or Dana? How do you?
Dana, yes, a trans woman who is also a pilot and airplane collector, and we had so much fun. So we kind of went through the different airplanes and the hangars at the local airport, and next time I think we'll just take one of them and go flying. So it was really fun. I'm meeting so many amazing people through this project. I have a couple shoots lined up, and unfortunately I wasn't able to do any while I was in Spain. Just it's really hard to do both the personal project while I'm in a workshop mode. I love those projects between travels that really gets me out, and thanks to him, I meet so many new local friends, and that's wonderful. Yeah, that's really the cherry on the cake to make new friends.
I think projects can do that, can't you? I'm very, very envious, because if I had a chance to go up in a 1941 Piper Cub, I would be there with a cherry on top, because that to me, I know a farmer who owns that aircraft, and it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Don't go up on a windy day, though. They move about a bit.
I imagine.
Let me tell you that. But apart from that, fantastic. Thank you, Valerie. And if you want to get Valerie to critique one of your pictures and creatively talk about one of your pictures and answer a question, then you can send us an email to stories@photowalk.show, or you can just join in with the post that's on the Facebook page.
Thank you.
Next week, Valerie is on the extra mile, actually, with a special extra edition of Teach Me Street. So extra mile special edition of Teach Me Street with Valérie Jardin. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to spending time with Valerie in Paris in July. Being a student, if you will, though you can certainly expect a podcast special for that. Talking of travel, in 2026 we have 2 new travel or life travel plans for you with your cameras. Travel, yes, the promise of the unfamiliar, the unscripted, the unforgettable, the feeling of your first step in a place where nothing feels routine and everything begs to be photographed. If you've been waiting for a sign to pack a bag, charge the batteries and follow the call of somewhere new, this might well be it. In 2026, we're going to Kolkata and Varanasi, India in March, and Mongolia with the eagle hunters in September. But I'd just like to tell you about India for a moment, if I can, because as I said at the start of the show, I think I did anyway, if everybody who sent in their please can I go emails comes in, we're halfway there. We are. And I just answered another email actually atop that this morning.
There are travels and then there are stories you live through your lens. Join me for 9 unforgettable days in India, travelling from the poetic chaos of Kolkata to the spiritual heart of Varanasi, a photographic adventure that weaves together light and ritual and human connection. We begin in Kolkata, where early morning street walks lead us through former colonial alleyways, flower markets and wrestling pits by the Ganges. We ride in those famous vintage yellow taxis, meet the makers in Kumatuli's Potter's Lanes, and capture life in motion at railway stations and markets that never seem to sleep. Then we move to Varanasi, ancient, haunting, and utterly magnetic. We drift down the Ganges at sunrise. We witness firelit aartis as the city chants into dusk, and walk through alleyways steeped in time. There are quiet moments too, watching a sadhu in reflection, youth at play on the sandbanks, and the stark contrast of life in the brickfields, where labour and repetition form a rhythm all of their own. These industrial plains speak to resilience, an unspoken strength that hums just beneath the surface of this sacred city. Each day is built to sharpen your eye on this trip, deepen your story, stir your creative souls. This isn't just a photography tour, it's travel that becomes part of your photographic life story, etched in light, colour and feeling. And I'd love to share it with you. Go to the website, photowalk.show, look for India 26 and you can register your interest there.
See, I told you we'd reach it. It's the boat. The boat. The sunken boat. There's no name on it, actually. It seems to have... I'm sure... it's gone. Maybe it's on the other side, but some of the glass or plastic panels now are broken. People have been in and stolen. There was once an outboard or inboard motor, a motor of some kind, but that was taken out the back. I think people have taken bits they want, and then she's gradually just slipped into the water. Let me get a couple of pictures. 3,200 shutter speed for 3.2, 160 ISO. And there we go, there's one. Let's get a picture all the way along the boat. And here we go. I'm amazed, actually. She was under tarpaulin for a long time, and I thought somebody was going to come along and fix her, but they haven't. I'm amazed that it's not been taken away. I really am. I thought that would be one thing. They're pretty good, those that look after this stretch of the waterways. I wouldn't have thought they'd have wanted that there, but there's a couple of pictures. I'll share it on the show page. Oh, Barnes, look at you sat down. Is it too warm for you? Is it too warm? Yeah, we'll head back soon. Let's find some shade. Good thing about the paths along the canal is you can find shade. Come on, pups, this way. Come on. Or do you really want to go back? We can go back if you want. Should we go back that way? Go on then. It's the Photo Walk show, and you can contact us on the programme by sending your stories to stories@photowalk.show. Stories@photowalk.show. Come on, pups, this way. And if you're sending pictures in to go with your stories, 2,500 pixels wide, please, if you can. Same rules go for this that's coming up now. The one-word assignments. Now, here comes your new challenge for a new month. I'll tell you how you can take part in a moment. Last month's winner will need to be announced next week, if that's okay with you. I think, though, this one for May, this is going to surprise you. It's set by Dennis Linden.
The Photo Walk assignment.
Dennis, I have the privilege of knowing the word you're going to choose, and I have to say, it is not a word I was expecting. Go on, you do the word and surprise us.
Gear.
Why gear? Because usually I get a nosebleed from that word.
And that's specifically one of the reasons why I chose it, to put you under stress. But also, I have come, I guess, it goes back to that Fujifilm t-shirt where they show that evolution, the Neanderthal, and then the photographer carrying all the gear, and eventually, holding an X100V or whatever it was.
That's it, yeah.
But I think a lot of us have been through this process, especially those who are probably on the photo walk, of expansion of gear and contraction of gear. And where I am now with my physical problems, I need a small, light, but competent camera to record the documents that I want to create. And I think others are in the same place. And I take photographs, coincidentally, of my gear in specific settings, or gear that I have evolved or chosen for a specific task. And so I think taking a picture of some of your gear, or the minimum amount of gear that you can get away with, in a setting would be what I would like to see. I'd like to see what other people use in anger on a regular basis. You have to get the right bit of gear for the right project. Obviously, my heart diary, although some of it was shot with an Olympus, some of it was shot with a Nikon, some of it was shot with a Ricoh. The vast majority of it was actually shot with one or other version of an iPhone, because you can't exactly carry a lot of camera gear around in a hospital room and get away with it. HIPAA compliance and this, that, and the other thing. So you have to use the gear that works for the circumstances.
Well, that's the word for this month. The word is, you can say it,
gear.
So best of luck with this one. Make it as creative as you can. We're taking pictures of gear. Yes, I know. That does not mean it can't be creative. I remember taking part. What was the website? People used to share their gear, and I was always fascinated by what people had in their camera bags. What was it? I shared my gear many moons ago. It was before, actually. before I went to Australia, because I met up with the person that runs it. Shot Kit, that was it. I met up with him, I think, after I'd taken part in their feature. So we're talking, 2017, 2018? Something like that. Seems a world away now, doesn't it? Anyway, good luck for the assignment. No watermarks, no borders, please, but do include your links to your social feeds, your website, your Flickr, your Glass photo with an F, or wherever we can enjoy more of your work. If you can include the full URL, that makes it much, much easier. It really does. The pictures and the stories will go onto the assignments page. Some may also well feature on our Photo Walk Instagram, which helps get more eyes on your work and our community to grow. It's a joint effort, that one. I'll be sure to tag straight back to your profile, of course. In a while before the end of the show, a walking surprise. And it is. But before that, can I invite you to grab your kit bag for a bit more of a city walk now with my guest, Mark Fearnley. Mark, actually, thinking about it, will make a super walking guest in London at some stage. Mark, if you're listening, are you up for that? Here's part 2 of my conversation with Mark Fearnley.
Being playful with your photography is something rarely mentioned. You mentioned a moment ago, actually, your double exposure pictures. They for me, are a really good example of why it's important to experiment. They're a bit more than experiments now, having said that. But at what stage did you think, oh, this looks quite good? Because your double exposure pictures are fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Neil. Half of them are done in camera in my Fuji, but some are done in an app now. Well, I take the picture on self-timer, and then I take another picture on top. So then I layer them together in an app, because it's just quicker and easier, and you can play about with it a bit more. But it's a good way to experiment, isn't it? Like even ICM, in-camera movement, and getting a little bit of slow shutter, and like on my workshops in London, I sometimes get the little group to stand up on, like where you got like King's Cross Station, you got the bit at the top where you can look down onto the public there.
Yeah.
Just by sticking your camera on that handrail and keeping it quite nice and sturdy, and putting your camera like, I don't know, 1/30th of a second, and then you get one person looking up at the board, and then everybody around him is moving, and you can get from messing around with your camera, you can get some really good shots.
What's the app? I'm intrigued by the app that you use for that. Then
the app I use for that is called Snapseed. But there isn't. There's a double exposure. There's a double exposure on one of the settings at the bottom. So you can basically put 1 or 2 or 3 images and just lay them on top of each other.
But you have to know the kind of scenes. I don't necessarily have the eye for double exposures because I haven't spent a lot of time doing it. Perhaps your work actually is enthusing me to go out and try it a bit. Actually, it really
Thanks,
is. But
so what I do,
you have to look for a face. There's a sort of focal element to it, and then a portion of the picture that allows for that face to appear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but a lot of them are done like with the people with the hat. The whole series about 30 or 40 images in the zine I did. But they're the image I take might be someone standing on a train platform, and he's in front of me, and I take a whole picture of him, and normally I like him dressed in dark clothing, either like a hat and a black jacket or something. So that becomes my first picture. So basically I've got a black canvas, my first image, and then the second image I'm looking for the light source. So on the second image it might be, let's just say for example, at the end of a tunnel where you've got a strong light source in the centre, and then let's just say it's a silhouette in the middle of that. By putting that image inside the black jacket of the first person, you've already got it there. So that's basically how it simplifies how it works. So a dark background for the first image, and then looking for the strong light on the second image and putting it inside the jacket or of the person.
They're extraordinary. They really are. They're everyone's a piece of art, I think.
Thanks.
I was watching a film where you were taking a walk in London with a YouTuber called Roman Fox. Friend of yours, actually, isn't he, Roman, I think?
Yeah, he's a good guy. I love Roman, yeah.
And this intrigued me. He asked you about using the phone for street photography, to which you said, I'm not wrapped up in gear. And the two of your favourite street photographers only use their phones.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by them.
Yeah. So there's one guy that followed for a long time. He's a good close friend of mine now, and we meet up and shoot and stuff. He's from Ireland, a guy called Brendan O'Shea, and he does mobile phone workshops, and he's always done workshops and shot on his phone. And I remember when I got to know him it must have been about 7-8 years ago, when I first started up, and I was shooting on a phone as well then, and he taught me so much. When you point the camera in someone's face, it can be quite harrowing. You don't know how anybody's going to react when someone's walking towards you. But he showed me ways by having the phone, and you call it, I think he called it one like shooting from the heart, where you put the camera and you just take the picture, basically got it on your chest. Oh, right. And on silent mode. Yeah. And as long as you don't look at someone and give them eye contact, you can basically look away and just take pictures of it and no one even knows. And another modern day method is by using a mobile phone is when you're walking along, you can just basically pretend that you're on FaceTime and you've got the camera in front of you and you're talking to the camera. People think, oh, he's on FaceTime, but you're taking shots of the people coming towards you. He taught me so many different things like that.
One of the things that I noticed in Roman's film was that iPhones can actually produce better reflection pictures. You were doing one along a corridor. That was on the Underground, actually. And it looked far more effective than when you held up your mirrorless Fujifilm to it.
Like, especially if you put it against something with a strong light, then because if you're like a mechanical shutter, you get the lines going across your camera and it's flickering. But I think because the phones haven't got as much of the technology to stop everything from happening and going wrong on like your posh cameras now. And also, like, you can put it right, especially with the iPhones, they're waterproof. So I can literally put them in the puddle, The phone is just so good for just like, everyday camera on you. And especially new phones today. I mean, I've got the latest iPhone, and I think it's something like 40 megapixels.
Note to self, though, never buy a second-hand phone off you. It's going to spend its life in puddles. We talked about this a moment ago, but I just want to retrace my steps a bit. Minimalism. Your photographs are beautiful for this, but you don't necessarily take them in places that are quiet. A lot of your pictures are taken in anything but, and you sort of declutter. It's almost like you deconstruct a scene. It is a skill.
Okay, so when I did like the series Beneath the Streets, everyone was saying to me, Mark, when I go on London Underground, I'm on a platform, there's 300 people there. How are you getting one person on that platform?
Yeah.
All it is you just wait there until the train comes in, and everybody else that's on that platform is waiting for that train gets on it. Then you have a window of probably 1 or 2 minutes where it's an empty platform. So it's then when I get my shots. So it's either as the train's just coming in, everyone gets on it, and you get the last person getting fleeting and running to get onto the train, or the train takes off and then you wait for the first train to come and there's nobody on the platform. That's the windows I take for that, and also patience. Like you can. I've waited 2 hours, Neil, for a shot once. 2 hours, just stood stuck. I found the shot I wanted to take, the architecture and that. And I just waited, but a lot of people haven't got that. They'll wait 5-10 minutes and that's it. I'm done. I'm gone.
So it really is a patience game. Is there a perfect day for your work? If you look at the work of people like Joshua K. Jackson and his wonderful street work, he clearly loves a rainy night in London.
And he shoots late as well, I think.
He does. He goes well into the night.
Yeah, I know Josh really well, and his book, I think it was Soho Nights or something. He was out like through the night, but
and the buses and stuff like that with his work,
I'm not so much late night, but I am early morning, because you're only going to get one person walking underneath Blackfriars Bridge at 7:30, 8:30 in the morning. If you got there at lunchtime, you're not going to get nothing because it's too rammed.
How do you feel about the ethics of street photography, particularly when capturing moments of vulnerability? I know you're not that sort of photographer, but you are bound to come across those sorts of scenes, aren't you?
Yeah. My work's not really in the face, though, but even though I do have people approaching me, walking down a staircase, or they can be within 6-8 feet from me, I don't really get anything, but I've been out and I've done street photography work, just proper street photography workshops where I have had people shouting, and what I do is I always just say, I'm prepared to, I'll delete the image. But for me, because I'm a scene hunter and my style is classed as fishing, I'm at that scene, so that when I'm at that scene, they're walking into my picture. So because I was there first, And with a camera, the only thing I get near is apologies. They always they'll come around the corner and then they'll see me and then they go, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry." They think they've messed my picture up. You see.
And you're thinking, "No, thanks. You were great." Well, the last 9 years have been tremendously successful. Your career, if you could see me now, it's just gone whoosh like that. It really has. And Instagram, I did 220,000 followers. I know that a follower count shouldn't be the be all and end all of when it comes to the currency of quality, but it's been extraordinary, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a good journey. I mean, even I'll tell you what, Neil, my wife doesn't even think I've got a job. I leave the house in the morning, I go, "Bye, love, yeah, I'm off now." She goes, "Where are you going?" I go, "I'm going to work." And then she'll go, "So what did you just say?" And I'm like, "I'm going to work."
We always end our chats with a particular question. It's only 3 letters long, this question. What's your why?
I think for me, I love to create. I love to make something. It's visually what I do, and I want to visually create. That's what I've always done. It's like that's for me.
And my thanks to Mark Fearnley for his time on the show. And actually, next week on the Extra Mile show, an Extra Mile where Valérie hosts an extra Teach Me Street session, and Mark Fearnley answers 3 more questions on the feature called 3 More Stops. So that's next week's Extra Mile. Right then, last week, I hosted our first Encounters workshop, which are street sessions, or this one was a street session in London. Atop that, with my busy mate, Giles Penfound, documentary photographer of many decades now, he ran a session to start the 2 days with something that will linger long in the minds of all those who came, where we discussed how photography makes you feel. A very important word, because that is really what photography is, the very essence of it. It's impossible to truly describe how I think that may have positively affected us all, his sessions. It was definitely a you had to be there moment, but essentially we all brought a picture along that is emotionally important to us, and that 45-minute session at the start of Encounters will stay with me always. Anyway, and this is the throw forward to the Extra Mile show I usually do at the end. I'd like to treat you to a little of that show recorded at Encounters. More Encounters will be coming, yes. And if it sounds like the sort of thing you would like to do or come on, then just drop me a line to stories@photowalk.show and I'll share with you some plans about the next one, which I think will be in the great city of York, and possibly also a fishing city involved in that one as well. So, on the Extra Mile, which is my special extra show for those who are patrons of the show, supporters of the show, I call you Extra Milers. On the Extra Mile, there is a longer special today. It's much longer, recorded with those who came along to this. I joined our attendees during the 2 days as they photographed through some of the challenges on the streets. And this is my wander with Jinnah on the second day when we were working together to find somebody to photograph for Encounters. As you'll hear in this 7 or 8 minute feature, we were just chatting when out of the crowd came a wonderful couple. There was Lloyd wearing the full tartan outfit of his clan, and his wife, who often wears her tartan, but she wasn't on this occasion. But she did share some very important, and I'm going to use the P word again, I've used it a lot today, some very pertinent points and thoughts about photographing people on the street. Now, I'm playing this for 2 reasons. One, it was, I think, a wonderful encounter moment, and 2, it does address what Lynn talked of earlier in a kind of roundabout way when it comes to encountering people. Some very good advice, I think, when it comes to people photography, and in particular, street portraits. Now, after the piece, we'll have today's play-out song, which is going to, unusually, because usually I come back after an interview and have a quick chat, but we've done that now. After the piece, today's play-out song, which will dovetail out of our encounter. It's the song over which we take our last few steps on the walk today and make a few final frames together. Now, I can absolutely be accused of shoehorning the word sun into my choice of song because, well, it's not a song about sunshine per se to match today's beautiful early summer's walk. But it does feel right, particularly with the lyrics saying, "You are the sun in my world." Anyway, that is the song to come, after which we will have the PS. First up, join me then for a moment taken from today's Extra Mile special, which is a real learning experience, I think, this particular edition. A moment with Ginna and Lloyd and Rebecca in London's fabulous Portobello Market. I saw Ginna cross the road, and the first words she said to me were,
"This is hard."
"What's hard? Let's wander, come on."
Well, getting the energy levels up again.
Right.
For day 2.
It was a day yesterday, wasn't it? Were you one of the 16 to 18,000 steppers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And felt every one of them, I think. Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh, sorry.
No.
So what are you finding hard, apart from the physicality of all the steps we're doing?
To just really put together something beyond the obvious. It's, I've got a number of shots of people eating street food, fine and dandy, but, you need a bit more than that. You need them spilling it down their front, or...
Well, have you thought about asking them if they would?
You can get them sort of chewing, but...
Look at this character here.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Yeah, love it.
Good.
Love it.
It's a beautiful day.
You are fabulous. Do you mind if I take your picture?
That is
Only if you come in with it. Come on.
Me?
Yeah, come on, get in here.
Oh, Ginna, do you want me in the picture?
Yes, I do. You have
Right,
to be.
and then can my friend then get one of you?
Yes,
Just
definitely.
because you are amazing. Look at you.
Yeah.
What is your clan?
My clan is actually Gordon.
Well, thank you.
Gordon.
Yeah, I'm a Gordon and a Stewart.
What do you
And a
think
Stewart.
my surname is?
Don't tell me you're a Gordon.
I am.
Give me a squash.
What are the
You
odds?
seriously?
What are the odds? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
High five.
Where's your tartan, Ginna?
My school kilt
Yeah.
was Stewart.
Oh, yeah.
And after wearing that for years, and it was sort of a boring green, I just
Oh, no, that's
gave
Stuart
up tartan
Hunting.
for a long time.
You're a Stewart Hunting you had, yeah?
It was
My
hunting.
mother was a Stewart and I'm a Gordon.
So I should just explain what's going on here, because you're probably thinking, why
Okay,
is he
why is he
talking into
going-
that furry microphone
Yeah,
thing?
go on.
So it's a podcast.
All right.
And we're doing a 2-day what's called encounters thing,
All right.
where we're encountering people, taking and making photographs of things and people and situations and moments.
Right.
And today is probably one of the harder challenges for those, because I've said, right, we're doing encounters today. I want you to meet people, talk with people.
Good.
Make a photograph of
I
them,
do
take
like
a
that.
portrait.
People just talk to people.
Yeah.
There's not enough of that any longer.
Well, I was just having a conversation, funnily enough, with Giles.
Yeah.
Giles 2, as he started calling himself,
Yeah.
because we have 2 Gileses on this course. And the first thing he did was go up to somebody and say, Giles, I apologise if you're listening to this at the minute, saying, don't single me out. But he did just go up to somebody and say, can I get a picture?
Oh, can I have a picture, man?
That wasn't set up. And the person said no. And that's fine, but there was no conversation beforehand.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the beauty, the need, the requirement, the necessity for just saying hello, like Ginna did to you just a moment ago.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly. That was really nice.
Well, yeah, it's pretty easy to do when you look so fab.
No, I believe it is as well. I talk to everybody every day.
Yeah.
Is this your uniform to talk to people with? Do you think?
well,
Because it makes
no,
a conversation, doesn't it?
Well, no, it's not a uniform that I don't wear labels. I've never been into labels unless they're paying me. Okay?
Right, yeah.
I used to wear just 40s and 50s stuff from the
you
60s onwards, yeah.
But that is like a way of that's like a way of breaking down a barrier, because you know that people are going to say to you,
I actually have my
"You look great."
Yeah, if it's an individual style, yes.
Yeah.
But I started collecting kilts in the 70s, and maybe I've got a couple of hundred now, so I just wear one every
A
day.
couple hundred kilts.
Yeah.
How much money have you spent on kilts in your time?
Thousands.
Yeah, I'd say.
Thousands. But we also got, a lot of children as well. We have a lot of children.
Right.
We have 13.
This is your good lady wife, and I'm so sorry.
good lady
We've
wife.
ignored you, and we didn't mean to.
No, she,
I don't want you to feel like
No,
that.
she usually dresses up as well. Look.
Let's have a look.
Okay, so look, I'll just go.
Look
for
at
a
the
few
two of
here.
you.
Look, okay. So look, we do actually dress
I love
up
it.
quite
I
a lot.
love it.
Okay. My wife here is Turns out she's a Viking.
What is your name?
Rebecca.
When did you find this out, Rebecca?
Just very recently, actually, I had my DNA done. And,
did you? I'm fascinated by that.
So 60% English and Scottish and Irish,
yes.
and then the remaining 40% is Dutch, Danish, Swedish, and a tiny percent of German.
That's heritage,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is.
It does explain. I mean, we're all quite tall in my family, so that explains a little bit. But 0% from any other.
Yeah.
Unlike me,
continent.
I'm like 58% Celtic Scottish,
right?
17% Nigerian.
I'm doing the numbers here.
I've got Italian, Indian, French. And yeah, I'm a proper mixed person.
I like it.
But I'm actually more Celtic than anything else.
Yeah. I love what you're wearing. Do you know?
That's a Gordon red, so it's always a lovely. It's a Gordon red weathered.
I think that's the second favourite.
What's yours favourite?
The red, the red
trews in that.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Which are great.
Amazing.
Did you say trews?
No,
trews.
Yeah, trews.
Yeah.
Trews.
I know, but I just haven't heard somebody say trews for a long time.
Right.
Do you know, I'm going to step out of this picture because, look, I know you want a portrait. And
I'm not sure Rebecca's going to be happy.
Rebecca might,
No, I don't mind.
Rebecca, I'll stand over here with you.
Yes,
We'll stand here like... I'm going to ask you, though, while he's having his portrait made, it is like a... Oh, blimey, almost got caught by a pigeon.
Yep.
It is like a... And you wear this as well. It is like a uniform in terms of... And I may be using it incorrectly, but in terms of just introducing yourself to people, isn't it?
It's
so much easier, isn't it?
It's saying a lot in an outfit. It's showing sort of, obviously, a link to a heritage. There's a story behind even the colours in the kilt. I mean, there's a lot of discussion about the protocol of what goes with what within the look of the kilt.
So you can't just make it up. You have to kind of adhere to some form of rule.
You do have to adhere to the length of the kilt, the skin do, the sporran, the kilt jacket, the hose. You can wear it with the ghillie brogues.
Is he wearing ghillie brogues now?
No, he's wearing normal brogues, but he has ghillie brogues.
Right.
And then the sporran, the kilt pin.
Yeah.
All of it combines to tell a story.
I think this is marvellous. I love it. Thank you so much for sparing us the time.
That's absolutely fine.
You see? Maybe I should get myself a kilt. Yeah. It would be far easier than to ask people for pictures.
Yes.
Do you think so?
I mean, I must say we get stopped.
All the time.
We live round here, so...
I bet you can't get back quickly. You can't just pop... Should we pop out, get a coffee, darling?
No.
It doesn't work like that, does it? No.
And then people either try and take pictures sort of discreetly, as if we haven't noticed, or it's a big...
Well, I'm so pleased you said that, because even though I'm sounding a bit like Columbo now, just one more thing.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased you said that, because you prefer somebody to be honest and say, can I have your picture or chat with you?
Yes,
yeah?
I prefer that.
Why?
Because I think it's, A, it's a bit more confident, and B, you don't need to be sort of sneaky about it. We can see you taking a picture, so,
You know, don't you?
Yes, why not come up and introduce yourself?
Your back is mine, whether it's waning, even under fire, even under fire.
That's the Watersheds and The Sun in My World, which I think we played last summer, actually. I have a feeling we played this wonderful haunting song last summer. Don't the years go quickly, Neil? Is that what you're going to say? I might just. If you fancy hearing the whole Encounter show, which was part of the feature of the workshop last week, then it's on the Extra Mile only, which you can find through the website at photowalk.show. You can join our supporters there and gain access to hundreds of other shows, and you get the opportunity to join the in on the monthly Zooms, which, if you're listening to this on the day of release, is next week as it goes. Should we make a final sketchbooker along the path? I've made quite a few, actually, which I'll put on the show page. My somethings and nothings, my sketchbook pictures, just to show where I've been walking. Shooting into the sun. I'm not sure, this might look a bit grey for the process of doing that, or the privilege. 2900 shutter, 3.2, ISO 160. There we go. Why'd you use 3.2, Neil? I don't know. It's where it was sat in. If you're trying to hold a microphone and take a picture at the same time, sometimes that's the way it ends up. Here endeth technical expertise. Just a few closing thoughts before the PS. My sincere thanks to you. If you are or you're about to become an extra miler, we'll keep building this wonderful community of kindness, as Lynn pointed out to be earlier on in the photographic and walking world together. Thank you, Lynn. I think, yes, a safe place to share our thoughts about this thing that we do. A few mentions for those who smooth the voyage for me. My thanks to Neil Ford, who looks after IT. He does look after IT, honestly. He can help you too if you drop me a message, and I'll link you two together. My thanks also to Andrea Gilpin, who keeps a watchful eye over Instagram, as does Kelly Mitchell for Facebook, and to Michael Mixon, who helps with the show research. And there's going to be some new features coming up shortly that Michael is an integral part of. Right, a postscript for the show. Today it's from Robert Doisneau. It's about encounters, really, the encounters that come from working on the street with your camera. Robert Doisneau. I'll pop a film by our friend Ted Forbes from the Art of Photography channel on the show page today about Robert. He can say his name properly. But he was a French street photographer best known for capturing candid moments of ordinary life in Paris, often with a playful or tender touch. A pioneer, he is called, of humanist photography. His work celebrated the poetry of everyday encounters, most famously in his image The Kiss by the Hôtel de Ville. Valérie Jardin will surely give me side-eye for my French pronunciations. Paris is going to be very interesting. Anyway, from the master, the following quote, which is our PS, our postscript for today. The marvels of daily life are so exciting. No movie director can arrange the unexpected that you find in the street. Come on, Barnes. Oh, I think we've earned our bacon butty for today, haven't we, hey? Maybe it's almost time for ice creams. No, I see. I can see your look of total disinterest. Bacon butties it is, he says. I don't want that ice cream stuff. Don't go giving me that ice cream stuff that they feed dogs. I really don't.
The Photo Walk is a Loading Zone production.